Good morning. Okay, yeah, it's morning. Welcome to Marketing 431. Yay! And we are going to start talking about fun stuff today. We are going to talk about customers. And we're thinking, okay, college level class. We talked about what is a market. Now we're going to talk about what is a customer. Something I learned in the 3rd grade. And when... I got the microphone, but... what was I saying?
Something about the 3rd grade.
Something about the 3rd grade. Thank you very much for... Of all the things that we've said in the class, that's what we remember. So we're going to talk about customers, but this time from the perspective of a business from marketing. And as we kind of talked about last time, there's a lot of terms that we use in this class that are everyday terms that we are very familiar with. And when it comes to business, when it comes to building a business around them, it's helpful if we be a little bit more specific about what we're talking about. Again, the difference between a naive and an informed definition. So the informed definition, we talked about this last time, is a customer is the actual or potential purchaser of your product. And to be a potential purchaser of the product, the person needs to have the time, money, willingness, and the ability to make the purchase. If I don't have the money, it doesn't matter how much I like your product, I am not a potential customer because I will never ever buy it. And the whole point of marketing is to turn potential customers into actual customers. So we kind of need to know what both are. And then we're going to split some hairs here. I'm going to make the distinction between a customer and a consumer. And a consumer is an individual who purchases products for their own personal satisfaction. And 2 times from now, we'll talk about a business customer, which is another kind of customer, but they don't purchase for personal satisfaction. So a consumer is a human, and they directly receive the benefit from purchasing the product. And we alluded to last time, there are 2 kinds of benefits that people get from the products that they use. And these are some really cool college level words that you can impress your friends with. There's the utilitarian, which is just the actual physical benefit that you get from using a product. And then there's the hedonic, which is the satisfaction, some of the non-utilitarian benefits. We talked last time about social consumption. Pretty much all of social consumption is hedonic consumption. So for example, I see some people are wearing sweatshirts today. And you are wearing the sweatshirt to stay warm. That would be the utilitarian benefit. I also noticed that some of you have proudly displayed on your sweatshirts San Francisco State University, the finest university ever to grace the city of San Francisco. And why do you have that on your sweatshirt? Now, if you're me, it's because I got it cheaper that way, but because I'm expressing pride, affinity. Again, this is that social consumption. In addition to keeping me warm, my sweatshirt says something about me, tells something about the world. That's the hedonic benefit. And both of them are important to consumers. There's a tendency to want to be judgmental and say, well, you know, the hedonic benefits, the social consumption, that's not really important because it's not really about keeping you warm. But the reality is, from a human perspective, they are both important. And in fact, as we alluded to last time, sometimes the social aspects of consumption can be more important than the hedonic. Has anybody ever been in the situation? I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota. So we're familiar with cold weather and seriously cold weather. And have you ever been in a situation where you had seriously cold weather and you had a coat that would have protected you from that seriously cold weather, but you didn't wear the coat because you thought it would make you stupid? Okay, so in this situation, it's the hedonic benefit actually outweighs the utilitarian benefit because, you know, freezing my butt off is less important to me than looking stupid to my friends. I know this was a big issue when I was in high school, man. You wait for the bus, freezing your... Anyways, so here's the first little insight we're going to have today. Why do people buy things? Do people buy things just for the heck of it? Sometimes.
Or they need it, they want it.
So yeah, well, they need it, they want it. So I'm going to argue that people never buy things without a purpose. This is one of the things, the reason that we buy things is to solve a problem. We talked a little bit about motivation, the difference between the desired state and the actual state. So the problem that we're trying to solve is the difference between where we are and where we want to be. And I would even argue in the situation where somebody's buying something for no reason, the problem is I have too much money, right? And the solution to having too much money is to buy stuff I don't need. Problem solved. So this is important to understand, that the reason people buy stuff is to solve a problem. So the first thing we need to understand about customers is they have problems. And we haven't talked about decision making yet. People have different ways that they can solve their problems. We talked about that the last time. There's the need versus want discussion. The need is the difference between the desired state and the actual state, and that's the actual problem. And then the want is the way that we solve that problem given the context of the society and the culture in which we live. And usually, if not always, you have more than one option. Actually, you always have more than one option, because you can always choose not to buy something, right? I can choose not to solve the problem. I would rather live with a toothache than visit the dentist. Okay, problem solved for now. When it falls out, I'll visit the dentist again. Whether or not, this is one of the things where we talked in this class a little bit about marketing is a life skill, not just a business skill. Regardless of whether you're talking about buying a product or solving any other problem in your life, the way that we make decisions is the same. So this process that we're going to talk about for buying is the same process that we go through solving any problem that we have in our life. So we know that we've agreed that purchasing is problem solving, right? Good, thank you very much. I've done my job so far. And we all learned from economics as a requirement for this class. So we all learned from microeconomics that as human beings, we always choose the best product available, the idea of the rational choices, right? Everybody understands that. This is what makes, one of the things that makes marketing fun is that people are not rational in the classic economic sense, meaning that people do not carefully identify all of the alternatives, weigh the alternatives, and make the choice that best suits them. And this is actually where Kahneman and Tversky won the Nobel Prize for the introducing the concept of behavioral economics, which is human beings make choices, but their choices are bounded by all kinds of psychological processes that are going on, and we don't always make the best decision, but our decisions are biased. And again, in this class, when we use bias, a lot of times bias means, that's bad, you're biased. Bias just means that it's different from what you expected, and ideally, if you know how it's different than what's expected, you can account for it. We talk about that if you've taken your statistics class. If you have bias, that just means that the distribution is not normal. So they have problems and they're not normal. So in addition to the rational decision-making process, emotions play an important part in our decision-making. We love our products, literally. Anybody here name their car? Okay, it's a piece of steel, right? But I have an emotional connection to my car, so it's not just the rational decision, emotional. And then also our decisions are bounded by what we can see, what we can interpret of the world, and what we can understand. We had talked last time about value is perceived benefit, less perceived cost. So perception is important. If I can't see it, it's not valuable to me. Interestingly, this is one of the reasons why in the early days of hybrid automobiles, the Toyota Prius really outsold the Honda, was it the Civic? Say again? No, that's before the Insight, is their first hybrid car. And what happened was, from an engineering perspective, from a utilitarian perspective, everybody would agree that the Honda car was the better hybrid, but it looked just like every other Honda car. And you couldn't tell from somebody else looking at it that it was a hybrid, and the Prius came up with a distinctive shape and that little thing on the dashboard that has leaves growing and saying, look at how much energy you're saving and look how much world is a better place because of you. And even though from an engineering perspective it might not have been the most efficient hybrid car on the market, because it was distinctive, people were able to see the difference, and more importantly, other people could see that they were driving a hybrid car. It greatly outsold the traditional, and then Honda came up with a hybrid car that looks different than the traditional car. So again, it's perception. If I don't see that that car is any difference, even though I'm getting better gas mileage, I can't enjoy the benefit of it. Whereas with the Prius, it's showing me every minute I drive just what the benefit you're getting and how amazing person you are.